Hi, folks. This is Rick Doc Walker, the DOC.
This is John Kine, and you're listening to the Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted.
What's going on, Rally? How you doing, man?
Well, Ted, we got week one of the preseason underneath our belt. And hey, man, I am okay. I wasn't sure how I would feel, but I'm okay. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I didn't actually watch the game until yesterday. So we talked about it on the last pod if we were going to watch it live. Did you watch it live or did you catch it later on?
I caught it later on. I had to work.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a better excuse. You got to earn the money so you can go on those extravagant SBEvents.net trips. So it makes sense to me. But
Oh, yeah.
I tried to turn my cell phone off, but then since I didn't watch it until Monday, because those of you that are season ticket holders, some might not know we get a perk, which used to be free NFL Plus. Now it's 40% off NFL Plus. And NFL Plus allows you to watch the all 22 version of the game. You can go back and watch replays of all of the NFL games. You can get out of market audio and games and stuff like that. I didn't get my email from the team for my free 40% off coupon until I want to say it was like late Sunday night. I'm sitting there scrambling trying to find it, and it was sitting in my promotions folder. So, shocker, finally found it, got everything set up, and I got a chance to actually watch the game. No commercials, none of that stuff. So it was 37 minutes. I think that's the best way to watch preseason because you just cut through all the BS that you don't care about. And unfortunately, I already got spoilers before I watched the game of obviously, everything that happened, at least with Jayden. But it was still good to see real football for a change and not just practice highlights from, Commander's Twitter or something.
Yeah. I got to tell you, so one of the things that I'm going to go back to the Jets practice. One of the things I'm a little upset about is I thought they were going to have the whole practice on, but instead they just had the guys warm up and they had a lot of on-field reporting. I was a little upset about that. I thought they were going to just have maybe a camera go to the various drills or whatever have you, whether it would be first offense, defense, maybe a special team, and then cut off. But it was maybe 15 minutes into the practice with stretching and maybe one drill or even half of a drill at that, and then they cut away. And everybody's like, what the hell? So don't advertise that you're going to show the practice unless you're going to show the practice.
Yeah, I feel for everybody because I was driving at the time, so I missed it. But thank God for JP Finley because he was doing his show during the practice. So everyone had to turn their cameras off, but JP was basically almost like live streaming the audio for the practice, talking about what was going on and this and that. So that was, who's basically our eyes and ears out there. We didn't get a chance to actually watch anything. And after hearing how bad the practice went, I actually think it's kind of better that there is no video footage because according to all the beat reporters and people that were out there, Jayden was running for his life when it was 11 on 11. Like 7 on 7, they said he was on point, but 11 on 11 with no Brandon Coleman, no Wiley, just a bunch of the offensive line all dinged up, he was not doing well. And the Jets had their first team defense out there. They didn't have their first team defense out there during the preseason game. The Jets actually didn't have, I think, let me see here. They were missing 28 of their starters. So, I mean, that's a lot of people. 28 of their players would not dress out for Saturday's game. So, meaning just one starter on either side of the ball was on the field. So, it's good to see what we did, but the practice is kind of what mattered. And if I'm giving us a grade, we got an F++ from what I heard.
Well, you know what? There's a part of me that's happy that we got that grade. Not that I was an F student and I'm happy with grades like that. But what I mean by that is we went into this thing not knowing realistically where we stood. And this practice and even the preseason is just to give you a baseline of where you are, what you need to improve, what you need to look for. You know, no one said that we were going to be world beaters. So it gives us a true baseline, and realistically, not even a true baseline because, like you said, some of our players didn't practice. And what I like about it is I like the fact that Jayden's running for his life. I like that. He needs to feel that without being hit, if you know what I mean. So
Oh yeah.
I've always said, hey man, get the kid up to speed at some type of live speed type of drills. And so here he is. He sees it firsthand. He recognizes what he needs to do. And so it gave him a baseline. And I'm sure that they went back and they reviewed the film and said, hey, kid, you know, you're going to be doing this, that, whatever have you. And to give him a true feel of that first team speed. Now, what I saw in the preseason game, it showed me that he can make adjustments. He does know what to do as long as he calms himself down.
Yeah, that first pass he threw over Eckler's head. I mean, Eckler would have had to have been like 7 foot tall to be able to catch that screen pass out there.
Yeah,
But
but
it's nerves. It's the kid's first,
yeah,
NFL like not play, but drive.
and you can't be mad at it. And so the biggest thing is everyone knows, including Jayden, what he needs to work on. It's we always say people lie, the film doesn't lie. So and the coaches know what everyone needs to work on. I have faith in this organization, this coaching squad, that we're going to get things right. And the mere fact that you have this isn't the past administration, meaning you're not going to be able to rest on your laurels. And so we're seeing that. We're actually seeing it firsthand that some guys may not cut the mustard, and you're not going to just keep them per se just because their name is XYZ.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute because they made some interesting roster changes coming
Yeah,
up. It's
definitely.
Tuesday, the 13th, that we're recording this. But this is actually what Dan Quinn had to say about James' performance. And I agree with you. I am glad that we got our ass kicked in that practice because everybody was talking about, oh man, this Commanders team's possibly legit. You got all these fans going out there watching it. James looking great, this and that. But the defense of the Jets, they're good. And we're going toe to toe with those guys. So I think it's given everyone a chance to take a deep breath, maybe take a step back and reevaluate and maybe be more realistic on what we can be. But Jayden did have a decent game, at least decent drive. And this is what DQ had to say about it.
What'd you think of Jayden today?
Jayden, I thought, was had just a real command of things to go. We knew it was going to be a fairly short time for he and for Marcus. We had planned for both of them to have a series, and then we would change and change after that. So it was a great first day for him.
So Pro Football Focus, I mean, granted, it was just one drive. Jayden was out there. They gave Jayden a 85% grade. So 11 snaps. He got an 80 in passing and a 63.5 in running. And he had that one long bomb to Diami that, granted, Diami had no separation at all. Jayden just chucked that thing up there, laid it in, and it was perfect. And hat tip to Diami for pulling that thing in because that defender was draped all over him, but didn't seem to phase him. And he was good. It was exciting to see. And it's refreshing to see that maybe Terry isn't the only receiver that we have that can make those type of catches and make those type of plays. But
Yeah.
did you hear that that wasn't really a called play, that Jayden went off script for that one?
I did, and I like it. And I'll tell you why I like it. The kid made a professional throw. A lot of times what we always hear is that it doesn't the college game doesn't translate over into the professional game. And quarterbacks are waiting for guys to get open versus throwing them open. And let's face it, in the NFL, that Diami was open. That's all you're going to get.
Yeah.
And what I really like about it is he was able to see the play. And one of the things that they knocked him so-called on Hard Knocks was when the Giants, when Dable was talking to him and he said, "Repeat that play back to me." And he repeated the play, but he got like one of the sequence, a letter or whatever have you off. And then he goes, "Well, you got that wrong. So what are you still gonna do?" He goes, "I'm gonna throw a touchdown." So what I like is he was able to decipher, wait a minute, the coach called this play. However, this play isn't going to get anything. This play is a dead play. And in real game situations, you want your quarterback to be able to recognize it, read the defense, and then make a play. Have the cojones to change the play and do what needs to be done, because these are the things that we're going to be asking him to do in real life situations. And this preseason game was as real life as you could get. So I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it. And even if Diami would have dropped the ball, I still would have been okay with it, because it shows that he knows where to go with the ball. And that's all we've ever asked as fans from this organization is, how many times have we heard the quarterback didn't read that right, or the quarterback could have done this, or he could have done that? Well, he did it. So at the highest level. So I'm okay. I'm okay. Just continue to get in the playbook. And when you see certain things, call it out, because that's what you're there for. Right now, what's the biggest term that we hear in the United States? If you see something, say something. Well, he saw it, he checked out of it, and he did what needed to be done, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm not sure DQ was okay with it when he was calling the check, but after the check, since it worked out, everyone's all smiles and laughing and joking about it. And this is what DQ said during his post-game presser.
To have Jayden check into that big play, I mean, how encouraging is that to see a guy come out just have no fear to?
It's an interesting question, checking into it. I thought of Top Gun. Do I have permission to buzz the tower? No, Ghost Rider, the pattern is full. And so I think on that one, he wanted to ask for forgiveness and not permission, and then throw, an absolute dime, over the top to Diami to go. So it was a really cool play. I think it probably illustrates for him the awareness and checks and things that go into it. So, he did not ask for permission, so he went ahead and buzzed the tower anyway. So it was a really cool play.
So he's obviously got two backup tackles in, right? He went to an empty set, and to me, I think it's a couple of things. They're not going to say anything negative about the kid having that play, because that's the highlight of his time. I mean, forget the read option touchdown run. That was, anyone could have really scampered that in, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, the way the defense cracked down. But for him to recognize that, like you're saying, see that, make that adjustment, call that audible, and have confidence to pull it off. The vets to have the confidence and belief in him to execute it like they did was phenomenal. I also think the coaches might have not wanted to maybe show that kind of check to our opponents, because remember what we always talk about preseason, vanilla, right? You want to stay vanilla. You don't want to show a bunch of stuff. And that maybe tipped a little bit of our hand of, okay, if this happens, then they might check into this. But I'm happy for Diami, because you don't get a chance to see him really flash and do much. He hasn't done a ton since he's been here. And granted, he's had a bunch of horrible quarterbacks throwing him the ball, even though he already had a good rapport with Howell. Didn't really see him translate, but I think a lot of that's because the offense was just garbage with Bieniemy calling it. But it was exciting to see Jayden demonstrate why he was the second overall pick in the draft. He's got the arm. He's got the brains to recognize where to go with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got the legs, and he showed it and he proved it. And yes, it was an 11-play drive, and he was 2 for 3. So not a ton. And, it was against the Jets twos, but it's still promising to see because it was against another color jersey.
Yeah. And regardless of whether it was the twos or not, it was still a professional defense that he had to make a play on. And so we can say, well, it was just the twos or it was just this. The fact of the matter is those guys were coming after him as if they were ones. And so I'm sure that this week Miami will have they're ones playing, or at least I would assume that they would, because it's the tune-up pretty much before the last preseason game. So nobody's really going to play that last preseason game, I'm assuming. So this second game will be more of what we're looking for, and it'll give us once again more so of a baseline to where we really are and what we really can do. I have faith in Kingsbury. I really do. I mean, the way that, even though it's vanilla, you can see certain things, and I saw how the little things is what matters. You know, the fact that the running back moved out a little bit more, which meant that linebacker had to move out a little bit more, which meant that another part of the field would be open. Dude, I'm not worried about it. As long as what I'm worried about is health and keeping Jayden upright. If we can keep those two things going, we'll be able to put some points on the board. I'm not going to say we'll win them all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I feel as though the Commanders will be more competitive than they ever have been since 20. I'm not going to say 2012. I'm going to say since Alex Smith was here. Since he was pretty much.
I hear you. I almost say 2016, right?
Yeah.
Alex's offense was just boring. He was less than 175 yards average and just, checking down. But the thing is, we're going to see a competent team, which we just have not had, a competitive team.
Mm-hmm.
We might not win a bunch of games. And, I think part of that we'll talk about here in a little bit, is because of some of the roster that they inherited. It's just lacking. We've mentioned it till we're blue in the face. 2/3 of this roster is brand new. But I mean, I'm with you. Kingsbury, I was surprised at seeing some of these runs that he was calling and some of these running plays in the formations. It was refreshing to see the pistol coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And having to keep the defense honest, because whether it was Jayden or whether it was Mariota or whether it was Driscoll, whichever quarterback was at the helm, having to keep the defenses honest because you had that threat of running from the quarterback. So we haven't had something true like that, I want to say, since Robert at that point. So that right there is going to keep defenses on toes. I mean, when Jayden ran that touchdown in on that 3rd and goal, there was no one anywhere close to him because they had been running the ball down the throat of the Jets that entire time. And those backers and DBs and safeties were crashing down on that running back. And he knew exactly what he was doing, and it was in no chance of being touched and being harmed. And a lot of what people were worried about pre-draft was, can this kid take a hit? Well, you know what? If he's smart enough about it, he's not going to have to. I feel that he was smart about it when he was out there. And yes, it's preseason. Yes, it's the first game. Yes, the Jets didn't have their starters out there really. But also, yes, Kingsbury gave a tight end to stay in there to block. He kept a running back in there to block, which is stuff that Bieniemy would not do for Sam back in the day. So knowing the things you have to worry about, knowing that you have backup offensive tackles out there starting for the first time. One of the guys just got to the team earlier that week. You've got to give this kid time. That is where we're going to be better when it comes to the coaching and the strategy. And they weren't even game planning, right? I'm pissed because I lost my bet. I took the under, and that field goal that they made at the last minute hit the over. But I'm excited from what I saw from these guys.
Yeah. And that's all we've ever asked for. Just the excitement is back. It really is. And it's so weird because think about this. Last year, the new ownership comes in, the excitement, there's a buzz now. We didn't do well, but we were riding high off of ownership. Ownership brings in, a year later, ownership brings in brand new talent, revamps the coaching squad. Now we were still riding high off of ownership. Now we're riding high off of coaches, and now we're riding even higher off of what we as fans perceive what can happen. So we're in a win-win situation, and now it's just a matter of seeing, will it translate on the field. And I think that we're going to surprise some people to where it will translate on the field.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think we're going to surprise some people. I also think that some of those, fans and our fellow fans of the team need to also temper expectations. They
Hmm.
got a lot of work to do. But
Hmm.
speaking of surprise, who stood out to you, whether it's offense or defense? Give me one player that stood out to you, non-Jayden, that was a good surprise. Because you've only been to what, 2 camp practices? I haven't been to any, right? So
Yeah.
which guy stood out to you during their performance?
The cat from Michigan, Sandstrill. Yeah, and if I butchered his name, forgive me. Is it Sandstrill? Which
Sanistrell.
Sandstrill? Yeah.
Yeah.
He locked his guys up from what I saw. And I really am. I'm going to pay better attention this next game. But just a rook coming in, and I don't care if they were the twos. I don't care. The kid's technique showed me that he knows what he's doing, and that's what I was happy about. All we've ever asked is just get better. Put a better product on the field, and this guy is going to be somebody to watch because what I saw him do on the field was awesome.
Yeah. PFF gave him a 79 grade. He's actually the third highest grade for the Commanders defense. And I mean, tackling grade, he got a 75.8, and coverage, he got a 78. And this is out of 100. And for those that don't know, those are some pretty damn high scores. And I
Hmm.
mean, you said it, the kid's a rookie, right? I mean, he didn't play a ton. He only had 7 snaps, but he made the best out of them, right? And the team saw what they needed to and didn't want to put him out there. And we had a lot of guys that didn't play either. From our side of things, Derek Forrest didn't play. That's another DB out there that Sanistrell was picking up his slack for. Bobby Wagner didn't play. Dante Fowler didn't play. We were missing a bunch of guys on the defensive line. John Allen, Deron Payne, Johnny Newton. But they saw what they needed to from him. And it was great to see because you've been hearing all this talk about Sanistrell in camp and
Hmm.
how he's been busting ass. And you practice how you play. And he actually showed he played how he practiced against our team. And it was great to see him do that. For me, I was pleasantly surprised with Sennett. Seeing Ben Sennett rumble down
Hmm.
there, he had what, 3 catch for 57 yards. He caught all 3 of them. He got an 87.2. So he had the third highest grade behind Olamide Zaccheaus and De'Ami Brown. But he had, I mean, to me, out of nowhere, I'm hearing people talk about him, but you usually just hear about Zach Ertz. But hearing what Sennett and seeing what Sennett did, it kind of reminded me of a bigger Chris Cooley rumbling downfield, breaking tackles.
Yeah.
And if he can actually do that during a game in the regular season, then damn, maybe we don't have to worry as much about Zach Ertz staying healthy because Ertz didn't play. And I'm thinking that's on purpose. I mean, he's
Hmm.
practicing. There was a highlight of him today catching a pass from Jayden.
A little
They
sweet
already know
too.
what they have. Yeah, it
Yeah.
actually was. But they know what they have in Jayden. Or I'm sorry, in Ertz. They don't know what they have in Sennett. So getting to see him do this against other live talent was phenomenal. From you, who surprised you in a negative way? Who were you kind of down on after you watched the game?
Um. Hmm. To be honest with you, Ted, I kind of as far as I'm trying to think. I can't think of the kid's name, but I saw a couple issues with it was it Mathis. I think Fedarian Mathis. I think I saw a couple
Yeah.
issues, but I mean, I can't. As I said, this is a baseline, and because our first stringers didn't play, uh, I think that he needs a little bit more work, and that's what he's out there for. Uh, so, and I'm not going to harp on number 13. Everybody is on him. He didn't play as bad as, yeah, he got a touchdown scored on him, but he didn't play as bad as everybody is saying. And and give them. I think as far as, and I'm talking about, and I just had a brain fart. Cut.
Forbes.
Number 13, Forbes.
Yeah, Emmanuel.
Yeah, Emmanuel Forbes. He didn't play as bad as everybody wants him to play, or thinks that he did. Now, did he get a touchdown scored on him? Yes, he did, and I know it's unfortunate. But I think with this new coaching staff, they'll be able to train him up and do things a lot better and different for him. Who say you?
Yeah, well, going back to Forbes, he got a 69.3 coverage grade, which isn't that bad. The one thing about him is he wasn't going against Aaron Rodgers and he wasn't going against, the Jets' best. So that concerns me a little bit with him. But against the Jets' first team that they put out there, he didn't do bad. He stood out a little bit, and then I think they just kind of picked on him as the game went along. For me, I was honestly surprised at how poor Jamin did when he was there towards the later part of the game, specifically when he was lined up at defensive end. And maybe it's because he's undersized as a defensive end, but I went back and I was watching the film and the game today, and it's like, is that Jamin? Because it's preseason. You got guys wearing duplicate numbers, right? So I'm like, okay, is that him? And then I realized, yeah, that is Jamin. What the hell is he doing? It's the third quarter. He's still in there, and he's going up versus a tackle, and he's the defensive end, and he was getting pushed around. He was getting kind of manhandled, and I don't know if this defensive end experiment's going to work because he was going against threes. He wasn't even going against twos at that point, and he was getting held up on plays. He wasn't able to stretch stuff out, and he's not able to use his athletic ability. He's got speed, and when he's running in space, he's able to make plays. When he's got his hand in the dirt or when he's right there on the line, he's not running in space. So it's taking away some of his talent. And Joe Witt, defensive coordinator, and DQ, they know what they're doing. I'm just starting to get worried that they're just trying to find a place to make this kid fit, and they're having a hard time doing it because, okay, the guys that we didn't play, right? The only defensive end that didn't play that should have played or that could have played was F.A. Obata, right? So it's not like we were weak at defensive end and they needed a body to go in there. They wanted him to see what he could do. And
Yeah.
he didn't do too well. He got a 59.8 at that point. So it's just, and maybe because I'm hard on the kid because he was a first round pick, and it's not his fault he got picked number 19, but you got high hopes for the kid. And I did not see it, especially when he's playing against backups. And this is what DQ had to say about Jamin's performance.
I know we've asked you about Jamin Davis and kind of how you guys are moving him around to see what he can do, where his best fit is. What did you learn about him from this game?
Yeah, I think what I learned, I really felt like the speed and physicality. Those were the things. I felt that. I could see that, the tackling to go. And so that was what I saw. And so to get a real look at this at the D end, you have to get it in the game and you have to get the exposures for it. So I was pleased with what I saw from him.
So I'm more of a harsh grader than DQ, obviously, because I wasn't pleased with what I saw. And I hope for the team's sake that they find a spot for him because he has we were in Atlanta. We saw him blow up. I can't remember the Atlanta running back. The one play. He has shown so many flashes of being good and then other flashes of, damn, did he just do that? And to me, there was more, damn, did he just do that?
What was his natural position in college? It wasn't defensive end, was it?
Outside linebacker.
He was outside linebacker.
Yeah.
Okay, which isn't a defensive end. So here's the thing. Obviously, as you said, they're trying to find a spot for him, but they're also trying to see what his strengths and weaknesses are. And like the coach said, you're not going to know until you put him out there. This is his first time at that position. I played defensive end and I was okay. Obviously, I didn't make it to the big league or anything like that. But if it's your first year playing defensive end, there's certain things that you've got to be coached up on. And yeah, there are different keys you got to read. So once again, you're asking a young man to do something that he hasn't done before. Yes, his physicalness, he's a beast. He just doesn't have the right you just can't go out and hunt because there are keys that you got to be able to go to work yourself through to go hunt. And if you don't recognize those just yet, it's okay because this is the time to do it. This is the time for you to be able to say, hey, look at the tape. When you felt this right here, this is what you should have done versus what you did. Okay, coach, I got it. And then you take it back to the practice field and you give him a situation that you saw in the game, and you run that same play and see if he feels it, see if he sniffs it out. And if he sniffs it out, then everything that he did in that preseason game, which means he's retaining it now, and he can put it to use in the next game. This, unfortunately, is what preseason is all about. And you're going to hear me say it until I'm blue in the face. And the thing I like about these guys is, okay, that they tried him at defensive end. Now they may try him someplace else to see where he fits, to see where this round hole can go in the round hole. Stop trying to put a round hole into a square peg. So that's what I like. So as you said, for you, Ted, you may not have liked it, but temper, bro. Temper your expectations. It's preseason. Let them.
It's the first game. Yeah, I get it. It's also year 4 for this kid. That's, your first round pick has to make a serious contribution. And I just don't feel that he's making that contribution. And another first round pick that is starting to make some people wonder is Jahan Dotson. Jahan was out there for a lot longer than the other starting wide receivers, if you will.
Yeah.
So it
and
makes
I'm okay
you wonder.
With that.
It makes you wonder a little bit why he was out there, and are they trying to find a spot for him? DQ did talk about it and said, they're just trying to. Well, hear it from him.
Hey, Dan, obviously the starters don't typically play a lot in the first game, and they didn't. But Jahan ended up playing, I think, more snaps than any other receivers. Just curious why, for him, did you feel that was good for him to do?
Yeah, I think we're right in the middle of that competition, at receiver and trying to find out slot and inside and outside. So moving guys into different locations, Ben, that's a big piece of it. And you'll see more of that this week as well with him and with some of the other receivers. We're really digging into that group, and it's a really competitive group to push it. So you'll see more of that same with his reps increased again this week.
So Jahan had 32 snaps, which it's a decent amount of snaps for your starter to be out there running. The thing is, out of those 32 snaps, going back to he wasn't playing against a bunch of the ones, his grade overall was a 44.8, which was the 5th lowest for the team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's got lesser quarterbacks throwing him the ball. He's trying to execute this offense with guys that are going to be potential, third string. I don't want to even say practice squad, but third string guys. So it's harder to execute and do some of that stuff. But fast forward, the team made some roster moves. And there's one roster move in general that they made that it makes you scratch your head. Is Jahan not fitting in? Is so-and-so not fitting in? And is that why they made that roster move? Well, here's DQ talking about the roster moves that they made this morning.
Hey, Dan, while we're sitting here, that just came out that you guys are signing Martavis Bryant and and release that, man. Just what went into making those choices?
Sure. Let's start first with Miz, and going with 2 kickers by no means, through the first, our last couple weeks in camp, still an open competition for us at that spot, but we did feel like this was something, let Riley go into this week and have these reps at Miami, both at practice and at the game. We'll kick, obviously, both in those settings. And so and adding another receiver just into the mix, we thought was the right thing to go, just right here in camp. And Martavis has a really cool skill set. He's got size and length and the ability to use him in the red zone. So when you see him today, you'll definitely he'll stand out. He looks like a linebacker playing wide out from a size standpoint. So I got a chance to work with him previously when I was in Dallas, and so I'm looking forward to having him here today.
So they brought in Martavis Bryant. They let go of Ramiz Ahmed, and I'm not surprised. I mean, kicker right now is a major concern for this team.
It's an issue. That's the true issue.
And that's part of why I'm saying that. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we're going to lose close games. Let's just be realistic about it. We're going to lose close games if we don't get this special teams piece taken care of and get a real kicker in here. And was it Patterson's the other kicker? Mitch Tischler was talking about how he, during warm-ups, literally hit both uprights and the crossbar, and the ball doinked out and missed, right? He missed the field goal during the actual game itself, and he's been hitting a bunch of the crossbars in practice. It's a problem. And they kept him, right? They let go of the other guy. So how bad was the other guy if they kept this guy?
Yeah.
But the team brought in Martavis Bryant. And for those that don't remember, Bryant used to be a stud, right? He hasn't taken a snap in the NFL since 2018. Right? You heard me right. 2018 is the last time he took a snap. Right? He got suspended. He had a bunch of issues for possession. A lot of the stuff that he got busted for, was legal in the U.S. now. Right. But he has had, I don't want to say attitude issues, but I don't know any other way to put it. Right. After he left the Raiders, he went to the Toronto Argonauts. He was suspended and placed on the suspension list after he failed to report to training camp. He never actually played for them. Right. He went to the Massachusetts Pirates, an indoor football league, didn't work out there. He went to the Edmonton Elks. He was released before training camp. It's just, to me, you're bringing in this guy that was on the Cowboys practice squad last year. So that's where Dan Quinn saw him and saw the potential talent he has. But I really think they're bringing him in for one reason and one reason alone. They're not confident in the receivers that we have in regards to their skill sets. We've talked about this in the past. All of our receivers are the same. For them to have drafted Jahan, I think, was a mistake because he has the same skill set as Terry in regards to size and route running. We don't have someone that is a good counterpoint that has that height. And I think that's why they brought this guy in. Is he going to stick? Is he going to stay? I got no idea. But what did you think today when you heard they brought Bryant in?
Well, let me backtrack a little bit, Ted. What I'm happy to hear is the C word, competition. So many times, guys made the team and they knew they were a lock because of who they were or whatever have you. Now, guys are seeing, wait a minute, I may not be a lock because of my name. And so, yes, this is a true competition. And one of the things that these guys harp on is they want to make this team better. That's what they're all about. So if you are cutting the mustard, it may be time for you to say la vie, bon voyage. It may be time for you to go. We're not doubting that they aren't good, but at this juncture, we're looking for great. Now, getting back to Martavis, I think that as all these players that have worked under Dan, he's a hell of a coach. He's a hell of a man. He's a hell of a confidant. And I feel as though he told Martavis, hey, look, if you can get yourself together, wherever I am, I'm going to try to see a spot for you, just for doing him a solid. because he knows the ups and downs that the kid has had. I didn't know everything that he had gone through. I knew there was a substance abuse problem, but I didn't know everything that was going on with him. But I think that as the relationships that DQ has made with these players, he saw it, and I'm thinking that he's doing them a solid, as well as knowing the deficiencies that they are seeing that are unfolding right in front of everyone's eyes. As we said, bro, the tape don't lie. So, hey, Martavis, did you get yourself cleaned up? Coach, I did get myself cleaned up. Hey, Coach, Martavis, are you good? Yeah, Coach, I'm ready to. All right, I'm gonna bring you in here. First, you got to show me what you're working with, and he did that. That's the first thing. He showed him what he's working with. So they brought him back again. So technically, this is his third time being here. So what else can you say? If this guy pans out, this is a win-win situation, bro. And I'm not here to babysit or you got treat you with kick gloves. This is the NFL, not for long. You don't put up the numbers that we need. We got to let you go, and somebody's going to replace you. That's just how it works. It's always worked that way. So as much as I like Jahan, or any receiver for that matter, if you aren't cutting the mustard, unfortunately, I need your playbook. And that's just how it is. I'm not paying you the big bucks to pout, or I'm not paying you the big bucks to miss. I'm paying the big bucks to make crucial catches. And if you can't do it, I gotta let you go.
Yeah, and I hope that he's going to work out, and I hope that he's getting his third chance, fourth chance, whatever, to get back in the league. And it's going to
Mm-hmm.
pan out, and we're going to be the beneficiary of it. I mean, Kaz Allen, for example, just looking at our the height, Kaz Allen's 5'8", right? De'Ami Brown 6 foot, Jamison Crowder 5'9", Jahan Dotson 5'11", right? I have Davion Davis is 5'11", right? So we got a bunch of guys that are tiny. Luke McCaffrey 6'2", Terry McLaurin 6 foot. I mean, Bryant is 6'4". He's got a heck of a wingspan. If you go back and look at some of the stuff he did when he was in Pittsburgh, it's freaking awesome. The only thing is, that was 6 years ago. So who are we going to get? What are we going to get? He did come here and work out for the team earlier this spring. He went from last year, he was 230 pounds. He's dropped down to 208. So to me, that shows dedication. That shows wanting to get back out there and see what he can do and staying ready, right? This is what DQ had to say about bringing Bryant onto the team.
Obviously, when you look at the top receivers on your team, the smallest guys, but not necessarily bigger guys, is that size? Is that something that you thought is needed more in this room possibly?
Yeah, and I think when you do, how do you feature somebody with that kind of size? What are the routes that they do on these contested catches? So, yes, it was definitely part of the consideration.
And what else did you learn about him last year that made you want to give him another shot?
Competing against him, he was on the practice squad, and so seeing the skills, seeing how we'd compete against him, oftentimes in practice we'd put him, into a certain spot to, simulate the size of a receiver, the speed of a receiver. So getting here now and starting with Bobby and getting the process started, we'll find out the things that he can do well, and then how would we feature them into it. But he's got real size, like the catch radius, throw it over here. He's got length to, throw it away from somebody on an option route. So those are the things, John, with somebody with that kind of size, whether it's the red zone for a guy who can get up to go, or option routes where you can throw away from a defender knowing, hey, this is incomplete or my guy's getting it.
I'm just surprised that, to me, it's got to be an indictment on the wide receiver room, because he was here earlier this year and they worked him out, right? I think that they thought that they had better receivers, talented receivers. That's why they weren't trying to make this trade for Ayuk or go off the deep end and do anything crazy. And bringing Bryant in is not crazy. I mean, he was just sitting at home on the couch, probably playing Madden or who knows what, maybe called, I don't know. But the fact that he was already here They had him try out. They decide not to bring him in. You go through 2/3 of training camp. You go through a practice versus the Jets. You go through an actual game versus Jets, and they're looking at the roster. It's not like he just got cut by another team, right? He's been sitting out there this entire time. If you thought that he would be able to contribute, why don't you bring him in sooner so he can build that rapport with Jayden, so he can actually go through your playbook and your plays with the rest of the team? So to me, Peters and Quinn saw a deficiency and a hole that they needed to fill. And I'm rooting for the kid. I hope he gets a chance to actually make the team because he's just going to do nothing but make us better. This is actually what Terry had to say about his new wide receiver sitting beside him in that locker room.
Yeah, it's good to have another vet around, who's been around the league, play a lot of high level football in the league and college, and he's super friendly. I just want to make sure that he's welcome into our group, welcome to our team. I feel like it's a big part of being a leader, and especially he's coming into our room. So he's here for a reason. I feel like just to compete and make us better and have a chance to help us. So I'm excited to get to know him more and see how he can make plays on the field for us.
His skill set and build, what can that bring to this team?
Well, obviously he's 6'3", 6'4", so he has the size and long arms. But I kind of do my homework on a lot of receivers in the league, and I just know he can run too. And so you have a big, fast wideout like that who can make plays above the rim, who can win vertical in the vertical pass game, win in contested catches situations. That's a big plus for you as a team and as a receiver. So he has a lot of skill sets along with the experience. He's been in multiple places, play high level football, so he knows what it's supposed to look like. So I think he not only helps me and other things to think about while I'm running routes, but he helps our whole group.
He's been out of the league longer than you've been in the league. Can you imagine having to jump back in later and try how you do that mentally, physically?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's definitely a grind to staying locked in, being ready for your moment. But when you see him out here running around and he's big, strong, and fast, he looks like he's in great shape. So that's what it's like sometimes in the league. You got to be ready for your moment and opportunity, and I feel like that's the reason why he's here, because he's taking advantage of those opportunities. So just as a guy who's been here, I just want to help him get acclimated and try to learn from him in any way I can.
You think he makes the final 53?
I think so. That right there is the reason why he's going to succeed. What Terry said. He's going to assist him. First off, he's got natural ability. And one thing that they always say is, if a kid's got natural ability, it's easier to coach. So, and you can't teach height and you can't teach speed. If he's got it, he's got it. And he's been out of the league for a long time. But obviously, Ted, they saw something in him, even though he's been out of the league for that many years. They saw something that said, whoa, he still got it. All right. So now that he still got it, let's see what he does in practice. And if he can get a portion of this playbook down, guarantee you he's going to be highlighted Saturday in Miami. And I'm looking forward to seeing it, because the kid, a good comeback story always makes everyone happy.
And I think that it's easier as a wide receiver to come in versus a running back or a lineman having not practiced and played with a bunch of guys, because you're running a route tree. The NFL route tree is the same across the NFL. Everybody knows what a 9 route is that plays that position. Everyone knows what an 8 route is, which is a post. Everyone knows what a dig is, right? You run a dig to X yards, right? So it's going to be easier for him, in my opinion, to pick up. I do hope we get a chance to actually see what he can do, what he can contribute, because he did play this game at a very high level. It's just been a long time since he's done it. So I'm hoping we get a chance to really see that this week. He did practice today. The guys were in full pads today. DQ said that if you're not practicing today and you're not practicing against the Dolphins on Thursday, because I think tomorrow's an off day because they're traveling, then you're not playing in that game on Saturday. So he was there. I think it means we're going to get a chance to actually see him. So it's something else to look forward to, because the stuff I was looking forward to was Brandon Coleman and this offensive line. Doesn't seem like Brandon's going to be able to play. Seems like he's still banged up. I don't think he was out there today. But another added weapon for Jayden to potentially use that can help this offense, and to be able to bring him on for, vet minimum and cheap and see if he can do something. But let me tell you, if I'm Jamison Crowder or Kaz Allen or anybody that's here because of the Rivera regime, other than Terry, my butthole is puckering, man. I'm putting as much stickum on my gloves as possible to make sure I don't drop a single pass when
So
we play those Dolphins.
The old sphincter is tight, huh?
Hell yeah. How could it not be, man? I mean, it's like you
Yeah.
said it, competition. And we talked about it, and I'm going to stop saying that, but it's just the past regime. If you were drafted and if you were a Rivera guy, freaking Cameron Cheeseman was the worst rated special teams player in the entire NFL. And they
Yeah.
kept him on the squad just because they drafted his ass, right? There was loyalty when there never should have been loyalty. This
Yeah.
regime is about competition at every position. And if you're not cutting the mustard, we're bringing someone else in to either motivate you, kick in the ass, or take your spot. And that's how
Yep.
it's going to be.
Oh yeah, and I don't have a problem with it. I love it because it's what teams are made of, and that's what it's all about. I wish the game was tomorrow. I really do, because I want to see this.
Yeah, I will be watching the Dolphins game live. I'm thankful it's not a noon game on a Saturday, but I'm starting to slowly get excited about the season, right? I'm not jumping in
Yeah, yeah.
1,000%. To me, it's about not getting burned out early. It's a long season. We got a lot to look
Mm-hmm.
forward to, but it's the little things here and there. What are you looking forward to seeing, or what are you hoping to see during the Dolphins game? Assuming we don't get a chance to see their practice, which I haven't heard any news about yet.
I'm hoping to see Jayden play maybe three series, three series, and for people who may say, well, no, you don't want him to play that much because hypothetically your starting left tackle isn't there. Well, what happens hypothetically if the left tackle, God forbid, something happens to him and we need to put the kid that's playing right now in the game? The thing about it is you got to be able to adjust on the fly, and I want to be able to see that. I want to see the improved defense improvements that they have made, both from what they've seen on the tape to what they have implemented game time. I want to see those things. Each week, you're supposed to get better. And I think that this coaching staff has that same mindset. Hey, look, if you're not getting better, okay, then I got to bring somebody else in who can show me something. And anytime that we watch Hard Knocks, I don't know if you watch Hard Knocks, but I'm thinking about last year's Hard Knocks when they had, or whenever they had Detroit on, I think it was last year's Hard Knocks. They had guys who were like, whoa, do you see that guy Flash? We're going to give him an opportunity. And then that guy who they gave that opportunity to was making plays on the field. That's what I want to see here. You forget that the guy may have been hypothetically a 4th round pick or whatever have you, or the last man of the draft. Forget that. If he's going out there busting his butt, making plays, then unfortunately you gotta, as a GM, as a coach, you gotta tap that first stringer on the shoulder pad and say, hey, step out. Let this young man get some. And if that first stringer doesn't like it, then he's got to step his game up. You can't be mad at the man below you because he's got more hustle than you do. You got to be the one who does it. So that's what I'm happy to see, man. I can't say that enough.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I want to see these other tackles. I want to see what they can do, because Wiley has not practiced this entire training camp.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And to me, we can't, hope is not a strategy, right? We can't hope he's going to be ready. We can't hope he's going to gel, right? We've got some new linemen all across the board, and you have to have that chemistry with the guy beside you. So if Coleman isn't going to be ready, if Wiley isn't going to be ready, I want to see what these other guys can do. I want to see what, if Cornelius Lucas didn't play this past week, but if he's able to make it out this week, what can he do? What can Alex Taylor do? Right? What can Trent Scott do just having come to the team? Are these guys going to be able to do it? Because the running game didn't look bad when they were running through the middle. When they were trying to bust outside, unless they were pulling guys, I want to say it wasn't as pretty. But what can these guys do? I want to continue to see some of that, I guess, commitment to protecting Jayden from Cliff Kingsbury, to keeping these tight ends in. I mean, John Bates was doing a heck of a job blocking and then leaking out. And like you, I mean, to me, I don't want to put a drive number on it. If Jayden gets 2 long drives, 2 good long sustained drives, I'm fine with it. It doesn't have to be 3 series for me. I want to see consistency. He only threw 3 passes, right? And one was, 10 feet over Eckler's head. Granted, Eckler's not that tall, but it was still, 3 passes. So let's see some more.
Head, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, one was a swing out to Terry that got like 4 yards, and the other one was that bomb to Diame. I want to see more of that route tree from the kid. I want to see him throwing across the middle and making those decisions and going from there. And a lot of that was probably by design. They didn't want to put him in those situations considering the state of that line. But if this is going to be potentially your line going into the season, I'm not saying it's going to be, but like you said, you can't count on those other guys if they're not healthy right now. So what can these guys do? I want to see them step up and hopefully prove that they can earn a roster spot if needed and go from there. And from the defensive perspective, I need to see more out of Jamin. I mean, I need to see that kid do something, because Bobby Wagner didn't play, right?
Yeah.
Bobby's not even out there. Luvu shine. I didn't see any shine from Jamin, but that's just me.
Well, do you think that the first team will come out this Saturday rather?
I mean, a decent amount of the first team was out there. You're missing John and Duran and Bobby, right? Other than that, you had first team defenders out there. You had, BSJ out there. I think Sandersville is going to be first team. You had Frankie Luvu out there. So, I think you will see some guys out there. I don't think you're going to see a Bobby Wagner. You know what you have in him. The guy's a freaking future Hall of Famer. I don't know if you're going to see John and Duran. I think they'll get their plays in during the practice against the Dolphins.
Okay.
But other guys, I think we will see them out there just because you only also have so many bodies. But
you think and I can't think of his name, but he had the surgeries on his feet. Do you think he'll come out?
Johnny Newton? I don't think Johnny's going to play. No, I don't think Johnny's really going to. To me, it's too soon. They've got him on a pitch count, and they've got other guys that they can fill in. He's more of a long-term. He's making this roster, right? To me, you need to see what you got in John Ridgeway and Phil Mathis before you need to see what you got in Johnny Newton. Because those 2 guys are vets that have been on this roster that really haven't shown you much. All the hype about Mathis when he got drafted hadn't lived up to the hype. And part of that's because of injury. Well, now he's healthy. Let's see what he can actually do. And I'd rather give those reps to him than bringing Johnny out, who isn't 100%.
Gotcha. Well, hey, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you and to our listeners. And just to remind you, if you're coming to Tampa, make sure that you have time to stop by the official fan rally. I'll be hosting it from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Muggs Sports Bar and Grill. It's a beautiful setup, and I look forward to seeing everyone out there. They should be able to house everyone that's coming into town, and I love it. So thank you guys once again for listening, and that's going to do it for this week's edition of the DMV Mess Hall. Remember, you rep it hard or you don't rep it at all. Rally Captain, Tailgate Ted. Until next week. Peace.